All right, so I think that wraps up our thoughts on Ang Lee's Hulk. So
Yeah,
now we're gonna go to the first MCU Hulk. This came out right after Iron Man. Actually,
2000,
the same
2008.
summer.
Mm-hmm.
Actually, this was the second MCU movie, and it was the Incredible Hulk. Um, this personally was my most favorite iteration of the Hulk. Um, I think it suffered from what happened with Ang Lee's Hulk, the disappointment in fans, and it was. I think people at that time didn't realize that if this was a sequel, a reboot, this thing was this the same? It was confusing, but this was a lot like the Hulk that I wanted to see. I think this look of the Hulk was the best look. I mean, was the most
He was a
ferocious.
beast.
Like he
He
was
was
a
he was a
beast
beast.
in this movie. The look of the Hulk was great. I thought Edward Norton was probably the perfect Bruce Banner. Perfect Bruce Banner. Liv Tyler was great as Betty Ross. William Hurt, great as Sergeant. What's the
General
father?
Ross.
Ross, General Ross. And I really thought it was great. I really did. Some people still were kind of in the fence, and I think it's still because they weren't sure what this movie, what place it took place in, whether it was connected to the old Ang Lee Hulk
Mm-hmm.
or it was at the time it was just very confusing. So
Right.
I thought it was great. I don't think it was the best movie ever, but I thought as a Hulk movie, this was definitely a step in the right direction. And oh, let's not forget Abomination.
Yeah, Tim Roth. He did a good.
Great
He
villain.
did,
This
yeah,
was
fantastic.
yeah. I wasn't crazy about Abomination's look, but I mean, it was a monster that Hulk was fighting,
They
so I
kind
thought
of
it was
made him
great.
look a little rock, more
Yeah,
steely. Like
it was like a pinkish. It was
it
weird.
was
It was a weird
weird. It
look.
was a
It
weird
was a weird
look.
look.
Kind of like it reminded me of
Yeah,
Doomsday a little bit. I don't know
a
why.
little bit, a little bit.
Yeah.
Yes, yeah. So Brett,
Yes.
did you see this in the theaters?
No.
You saw so you did you saw it probably went DVD and
Blu-ray. Yep, I bought
Blu-ray.
the
Okay,
Blu-ray, which happened to be a green
yeah,
plastic Blu-ray, not the
right,
actual
right,
old school blue one.
right. So I mean, we've talked about this before. I don't think you were crazy about this version of the Hulk, right? It didn't really
Right.
do anything for you.
It just didn't do anything for me. It's not that there's nothing about it I disliked. If anything I dislike is that they had to continuously recast Bruce Banner.
Yeah,
And looking back, I may have wanted to see this one the most
yeah,
because Edward Norton. I always like the idea of like a tiny, thin, frail man
Bruce right,
that,
Banner.
that grows huge. And
Right,
even
exactly.
even as a
Yeah,
kid, I figured like the David Banner from the show was like he's like a normal looking sized guy.
right.
And I guess I got that from like the Hulk roller coaster. I don't even think it exists anymore. Universal Studios.
It's still there. It's still there.
Still
Yeah,
there? I haven't been
yeah.
in forever.
That's
I
true.
remember when that came out, and it was so awesome. They had, like, in the line, like, the cartoon or, like, a
Mhm.
really quick little maybe they made it just for that. And they showed this, like, perfect animated or design, thin framed, frail Bruce Banner, and I think Edward Norton reminded me the most of that, and it just
Yeah.
looked really good to me. So I was excited when I heard he had it. It's good. I thought everyone acted that role fine.
Right.
Um, I'm not getting any feedback, am I? I kinda hear myself.
No,
No? Okay, good.
I heard you.
Sorry. Um, it just like you said, I was a little confused. Does this follow the Hulk? And I thought at the time that's what they were trying to do because they didn't give you an origin, which was very common back then. That you had an origin with a new
Well,
movie.
they kind of did. It was just in the beginning, in the credits. It was very quick.
Yeah, snip snap.
So,
Yeah, he's often hiding and stuff, right?
right.
So, it sucked because we just got Iron Man and it was great, and then this is okay. So this is the next one, and it ties in. I kept hearing it ties in,
Yeah.
and it
Right in the
just didn't
beginning.
feel
Ties
like
in.
it. Almost,
Well,
yeah.
towards the end, it ties in also
No, right in
because
the
it has
beginning
and
too. In the
yeah.
intro
Well,
when they're showing the credits and you see like missiles, you can see Stark Industry right on one of them.
oh yeah, yeah, yes, yes,
Okay.
yes. You're right. You're
Samuel
right.
L. Jackson though, right? We get Sam
No, towards the no, no, no.
On
Well,
Hulk, no. On
it's
the
Robert Downey
Incredible Hulk?
Jr.
No,
No, you
it
got Iron
was
Man.
Robert Downey Jr.
Yeah,
I
at
remember
the
that,
end
but didn't he show up again in the Incredible Hulk? No?
he did.
Samuel L.
No, no,
Jackson?
no,
Yeah, Robert
not
Downey
Samuel
Jr.
Jackson.
is
You see
in
Robert
the
Downey.
Hulk. My bad.
Yeah,
Yes. Okay,
yeah.
you're right. So then it was like, okay, we're really crossing the streams here. It's just I think they were still figuring it out, so I can't really blame them for
Right.
that. It still to me feels like the least connected of all the MCU movies.
Well, I mean, a big part of it is because they did recast Edward Norton,
Yeah,
so
I
that's
know.
why it feels like it's so disconnected.
Yeah,
But
it took a long time for them to connect anything that happened in the
well,
long time.
very recently they kind of. But anyway, but Marco, what did you think of the Incredible Hulk?
I mean, again, I was like in high school, not even in high school, like
2008.
I graduated in 15, so like I was like 11 or
Yeah.
12. I mean, I enjoyed it. I mean, I remember watching. Actually, remember watching this in theaters, and I mean, the visual effects are nice. You know, the story was a little everywhere, just a little bit. Even myself walking into the movie, I'm like, is this a sequel to the old one? No, it can't.
Yeah,
It
and
can't be, right? You
that's
know, like
everyone.
in my mind,
Yeah,
like, no, this isn't a sequel. It's not the same guy.
right.
You know, but yeah. I mean, it was whatever. I actually really like Abomination in this movie. Again, I'm not a big fan of the look, but I like the villain. I love the
Yeah,
way Tim Roth portrayed him, and he did a really good job. Even now, I kind of still like.
yeah,
So I mean, and I love Liv Tyler too.
yeah. I thought she did a real good job. I thought
And
the chemistry between Edward Norton
yeah,
and Liv Tyler
and
was actually really good.
I have to agree with you in the sense that this Hulk is probably my favorite version of Hulk itself because he's a beast.
Yes,
He's a
yes,
beast. His fight with Abomination is just crazy.
yeah,
Really blows my mind. That version of Hulk is technically still the one in the MCU. None in the same.
yeah.
They're none in the same.
Yeah, it's hard to believe because it just they. You're right. They feel so different.
Very different.
Yeah.
Mhm.
So yeah.
I did. This was around the time I was reading comics again because I have very spots when I was a kid. I think Batman was the first ones I read because of you, Buck. We, got
Hmm.
into
Yeah.
that. Um, but then I kind of had a pause, and then when the X-Men cartoon came out in the early '90s, I started buying Marvel comics, and at some point around that time, I bought a trade paperback that had it was called Fantastic First, and it was the origin, like story arc of all the big ones: Fantastic Four, X-Men, the Hulk, Thor, Doctor Strange, even. Anyway, I got back I kinda dropped it off again, and then my 3rd was when all the movies started coming back. The X-Men movies started happening, Spider-Man, the Hulk, and I was buying comics at that time. That was probably my most you know, you and I would actually every time I'd go visit you in Miami or you'd come to New Orleans area, we
Yeah.
would go show each other, "Here's my comic book stores," and we'd go around this town and just buy up comics and
Hmm.
enjoyed them. 'em. We'd lay them all out, and it was great, and I
Yeah.
read at the
Yeah.
time, like, I was reading new Hulk comics,
Yeah. Me too.
and yeah, it was great. It was a good time.
It
But,
was.
Abomination was one of his I happened to catch the story arc. So actually, it's rare I know who the comic book villains are, especially these days. Back then, I was like, "Oh, I know who Abomination is." I just didn't remember much about him, but I knew he put on a tough fight for Hulk. Like, it
He
was
was, yeah, he was a very, he was, I'm not going to say in the same rivalry as like Batman and Joker, but he was a very big villain for Hulk. He was, yeah.
Yeah, and it was
So,
cool to see him have a villain because
right,
it's similar to Superman. Like the first movie is kind of you learn about him, and almost with the Hulk, it's like his battles against himself. It's not he doesn't have a
right,
real villain.
right.
It's like the show. It's the government. It's everyone's not
Yeah,
understanding who he is. And this time he actually had a villain to duke it out with. So that was
right.
exciting. It's like this is gonna be cool. It was
Exactly.
fine. To be honest, I've seen it twice. I saw it once back in the day, and then I actually only saw it recently, about a year and a half, 2 years ago. I decided to go through
Hmm.
Square A
Right.
to Z, whatever. And yeah, I mean, we have a legacy now. We'll get into that in a little bit, but it's funny how pieces of that movie are continuing on now.
Yeah.
Whereas we lost Edward Norton, we lost Liv Tyler, we lost in real life, we lost
Real life, but General
General
Ross.
Ross, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
So we lost Stan Lee. He was in there too. He died from the
Yeah,
soda, if
he
I
did.
recall.
That's
Yeah.
right. Yeah, it was contaminated with his
Yeah, man.
blood. Yeah.
He's just totally killing people. You drink a drop of blood and you don't have the right DNA, you fall over dead.
Well,
You have the right blood.
apparently,
If
yeah,
you're
right, blood.
genetically, hey, you beautiful, Anyway,
Let's not go too
let's not
forward
get
yet
ahead of
because
ourselves.
let's not get ahead of ourselves.
Let's not
Okay.
get ahead of ourselves.
Everyone
So
watching at
so
this point already knows where we're leaning. Like
Yeah.
they already know
right,
what we
right.
think.